Hi guys, I come back to you with yet another video. This is Baba Kobe. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please just try and think about it and do this time, because I put a lot of content that I have not shown you, and I think you deserve to see this. For instance, I've been to Zimbabwe, and I think I've seen some things that I need to share with you. Why do you think I could sit behind the camera and say things that don't interest you? I am one person who takes care to make sure that I do something with quality. So I'm going to show you what I saw in Zimbabwe. A typical village, walking the village, traveling in the village, and you see the typical Zimbabwean life, people doing what they should or what they do typically in a Zimbabwean environment. So come with me and watch this video. And I want you to say in your comments what you think about it, so that I can come back with even more improvements. Thank you in advance for watching. Let's get into it. This is a typical view in a village in Zimbabwe. Things are always similar or the same everywhere you go, but in modern villages now, gardens and things like that, with the introduction of water by simple having a borehole. So the people have gardens and they grow crops for themselves and for sale to other residents or neighbors. So village life is improved a bit, but it can still be improved to better than it is now. You see, having water is also a very important thing. You see, neighbors come and get some water from the village, and so sharing water, it is a belief in African custom that you don't have to abstain from sharing water. Water is a basic commodity that is shared, and whoever has got it usually shares it free. They don't charge anything for it. Like for instance, these neighbors, they just come and collect water, although they have not contributed to the cost of installation of all the infrastructure required to pump or to extract water from the borehole. So in a village, a modern village in Zimbabwe will have all these implements like the pumps, and sometimes some have good grinding mills. I was just chatting to this young man. He had come to collect some water, young boy, and I enjoyed to see the green garden. It had improved. This had never happened before in this area, because the garden now, with the provision of water, has all the nutrients that is required for growing plants. You need water. Water is life. Once you have water, you have everything. It is even easier also for animals, because watering animals becomes easier. You don't have to take them to the river. Hi guys, an early morning inspection of the homestead. Just looking at the vegetables and the fields, gardens and the cattle. This is the usual thing that happens in a village.
and work is done in the morning. There's a voice, there's some plowing, and then the rest of the day the cattle are free to go and graze.
These are men at work. This is the normal duty for young people in the morning before they go to school or after school, depending on the situation. Plowing, the main job at home. Now look at the garden. The situation is improved because of the water situation. If you got water at home, then everything goes well. The garden is improved. There's better crops in there. But look at the other things that happen or that have to be at the homestead. The goats, besides cows, and the water, firewood, all those things are necessary at home. We require to have them, and this is a storeroom. It also serves as a water tank support. The tank rests at the top, and this is a grinding mill. It's also another source of income for the homestead. So there are many things one can do in a village. This is a typical home situation, a village in Zimbabwe. Typical for anyone who can do it with a focus to make a living at home in a normal situation. And it's obvious that people will look for transporting things with carts like that one. And the field has to be plowed like we saw before, but when crops are growing up, it's this way. One expects rain season or the rains to come more frequently so that the crops will grow better. And less irrigation is implemented. So with the water, it's possible that you can water the plants, but you have to make some kind of pipe work to suit the situation.
Hi guys, I'm just sitting here in the village this morning. I've been going through the different experiences here in the village. Okay, so I don't want to get it. You need to find out if I have gone through everything that I want to show you in the village. Okay, this is what I want to share with you.
Now I want to show you the roads that we use to get home. This is how we travel. Of course, there's a lot to see. The homesteads around or along the road are so different. People build different kind of structures for their home, but a hut is the common one. If they cannot build a house, they will always build a hut. A hut is the simplest and cheapest form of accommodation for anyone to build in Zimbabwe. So whenever a homestead is starting, if someone is starting a home, they always build a hut. And you will see that most of these buildings, even if there is a modern structure, a house, there's always a hut next to it. And in most cases, the huts are used as a kitchen. Most Zimbabweans don't really believe in attaching or building a kitchen within the house, main house. Even if they are building a modern house, they always have that round hut separate from the main house is a kitchen, and it always has the shelves and things that you always expect in an African Zimbabwean kitchen. The shelves with utensils displayed in a pattern to attract attention or just as decoration. And a bench for men to sit on is always provided on one side of the hut, and the other side is always a plain floor with mats for ladies to sit on. That is the hut. Now, sometimes when going along such a long distance or driving along, you have a lot to see, and you always tell stories and compare some of the homes with others and to see what the others are doing and learn from others as well, because the buildings are always different and they are very far apart in some cases. They're not as close as they would be in a township in town. So villagers are said to be neighbors, but it can be quite a distance from each other. But some are close enough, but some are very far, because they need the land to have space for keeping cattle and chickens and the fields. So all that space has to be provided for all those functions and animals. But nowadays it is common to see the village home having a water tank. Almost everyone has a water tank except those who cannot afford it, and a borehole drilled to supply water. Some can still fetch water from rivers or dig a well and draw water from the well using either a windlass or just a string or with a bucket attached on one end, which is lowered into the well and hoisted, pulled up when it is full. You see the buildings are quite different buildings, but to take note, the toilets, always the lavatory is structured and it's always put away from the main buildings, obviously for hygienic purposes, because there are not water closets, they are black toilets. They need to be away to prevent the smell going into the main house and to possibly the spread of germs as well, because it is only swept and cleaned in a different way from a water closet. The water closet is so simple because the water flushes away everything at every go. But whereas in a black toilet, the droppings just drop into a hole and they're left there. But you can imagine what happens to the whatever develops from that dropping. The roads are usually not tarred in rural areas, so they are dirty roads. You see, some buildings are quite nice, like this one, and the other one on the other side. As you go along, Some have got very good vegetation and very good fields, but some have got a different method of plowing, and they might have no cattle or goats, depending on the situations. But it is common to have goats and cattle and chickens, especially chickens. Almost everyone, even if they have got no cow or goat, they will always have chickens. Chickens are the simplest form of tamed birds that people keep for provision of meat. So you cannot say the poorest, but those who cannot afford the cows and goats can always have chickens, because they are more affordable to most people. The next are goats, and then cattle. The more cattle one has in Zimbabwe, in a Zimbabwean village, the more they are considered to be well off. Look at that house there and the other one there. These must be family. They always build houses next to each other, and if you to just separate, but with their own kitchens. Just look at the goats on this side. They've always fenced their property, but not all of them fenced. Those who have not fenced and cannot afford fence always leave it. And sometimes in Matabeleland you will find that they use some branches to build a fence. Hey, it's a nice warm day. Along a distance you see quite a lot when driving in Zimbabwe. Quite interesting buildings, structures, and they see water tanks. They are becoming more popular, and the solar tank up there, the solar, the so known as water geyser, a solar geyser, that is a boiler, some kind of form of a boiler that is known as a geyser, is usually put up there, and when you go to a borehole, you have some water going through just to heat the water. Solar panels have now come to the rescue because they provide some form of electricity lighting, but not much of heating. Even that solar tank up there, I've got one at my own home, but it is sometimes not that warm. It only depends on the weather. If the sun has been so hot, of course it gets hot as well. But it's the panels that are supposed to supply the heating after they have been exposed to light. But I think there's still a lot to be done about solar. As to in urban areas, most people now have solar in the houses, and they use it extensively for lighting, mostly lighting. And the cooking is done by gas. They always have gas now, but in the rural areas they're still using more firewood, because there's still a bit of firewood, but there's now a discouragement from cutting down trees. So people are learning to get even gas in the rural areas. Some people do have gas, although most still have access to wood, firewood. We just hope that with time things will improve. Talking of toilets, in Zimbabwe, almost every village has got a toilet. Every village, when someone is constructing a home, the first thing they are supposed to have is a toilet. That is one thing that the government in Zimbabwe emphasized. Every village has a toilet. So you cannot visit a home and fail to have a toilet in Zimbabwe. It is practically not possible. Almost every home has a toilet, a black toilet. If not a water closet. Water closets or flush toilets are becoming available even in rural areas with people with boreholes and where they have got water. They are introducing those toilets as well, which is quite commendable. If all people could afford it, it would be the best way to make sure that the people are well off and are safe from contamination from germs that are normally linked with the wet conditions of a black toilet. There's also a danger of the black toilet collapsing during rain season if the ground subsides. It is a very dangerous situation. Many people have had an incident when they wanted to use the toilet after very heavy rains, and then the toilet subsided and collapsed while they're in the toilet. I've not heard of anyone who has died, but I've heard of many who have been assisted from such a situation. So when building toilets, some now are beginning to make sure that the walls of the ground in the hole that they dig in the ground are built with concrete walls so that the seepage will go through certain holes, but the main ground is held by bricks to stabilize it from collapsing when it begins to rain. So when they dig a hole, they build within the hole with the walls around to stabilize the toilet. This is Zimbabwe. Some areas are very good, well, with a good foliage, but in these villages, you can hardly see the villages. They're hidden in the foliage there. And it looks good because there are some places that I know of when I was a boy. They were almost bare of all vegetation, but I think now the encouragement to desist from cutting trees has improved. So we've got vegetation almost everywhere in Zimbabwe now. I hope that is a very good thing. It also improves the oxygen generation from the trees. Many people now are not cutting trees, and the government has made it illegal for people cutting trees. So people avoid cutting trees. You only have to have a very good reason to cut a tree. Otherwise, firewood, you look for dead wood in the forest, which you always get sometimes. If you walk around in the bush, there is always some dead dry wood which you can get for firewood. Not cutting a fresh tree. If you were to cut a fresh tree, you have to cut one branch and leave the rest of the tree to keep on growing, to provide foliage, that is leaves and more branches. So that is now improved the situation in Zimbabwe, and I think this is going to get this climate change improvement, because it has been found that where there is vegetation, the rains fall much better than in bare ground. I don't know if there's any truth in that, but I believe that is what it is. That railway line used to be for the trains going to and from Kwekwe and Gweru, but now they've since been disused because there are rarely any trains used in Zimbabwe. There are no functional trains. However, there are so many trucks on the road, huge trucks carrying ore from some mines, which is maybe the cause of all the damage to the roads, because roads need to be protected from heavy loads. If ore is moved by railway lines and there are less heavy trucks on the roads can be maintained better, and there will be more or less damage to the roads. That would improve the road maintenance. It also needs a lot of maintenance. With all these trucks, it calls for a lot of maintenance. So that was the ride all the way from the village now to the urban areas, and the urban area being Kwekwe, Redcliffe, Rotendo, and the Zisco steel structure, which is almost defunctional now. It's not effective, it's not functional at all. It's just a steel structure remaining there, and the people seem to be finding it just imposing by sight. Just looking at it, people are not impressed. It reminds them of the good old days when Zisco Steel was producing and the railway lines were operational, moving iron ore from to the Zisco Steel, and the steel made and distributed by railway lines. So you see, railway line is the main requirement for a country to survive industrially. So if Zimbabwe is to improve and they get railway lines and they get trains moving goods, that would be a very big improvement. So Zimbabwe has to work hard to get that. We hope that she's going to be one of the major improvements in future.